Today's lesson is lesson 3.1, Systems of Measurement. We're going to look at the two different systems of measurement that we're going to work with. That's the metric and the imperial. Do some terminology and then some examples. So let's get started. We've got the imperial system, and this is the most common system. It's in the United States in particular, and the measurement unit that for length is the foot. And so in Canada, we seem to oscillate between the metric and the imperial system. Often when people talk about their heights, they talk about it in feet and inches, but if we talk about distances, we do it in kilometers. And so we have this mix. Now, the imperial system is a system based on, it's a base 10 system. So we're looking at multiples of 10, moving up factors of 10 and down factors of 10 as we move through different units in the imperial system. Now the basic system, or the base unit for the metric system, is meter. And so we're going to talk about these two systems. In this particular class, we're going to stick inside of the imperial system and inside of the metric system. We're not going to convert between them, but we will move in the direction where we're moving in between them. So now on to some terminology. Base unit. A base unit is a unit of measure in which other units are based. So in the metric system, we think of meter. So every length measurement is based on that meter. So we have centimeters, which is a hundredth of a meter. We have a kilometer, which is 1,000 meters, and so on. In the imperial system, some people might say that your base unit is foot, and then we build everything from the foot, but it's not quite the same. Volume. So in this chapter, we're going to work with volume, and volume is the amount of physical space, three-dimensional space, that an object takes up. And a conversion factor. We'll be working with conversion factors, and this is a number by which a quantity expressed in one unit must be multiplied to convert it to another unit. And so we'll get a little more specific about what a conversion factor is as we go through. Perimeter is the sum of the lengths of all of the sides of a polygon. So it doesn't matter what shape it is, we have lengths of sides, and we would simply add them up, the sum. Our circumference is the measure of the perimeter of a circle. And we're going to be working with perimeter in this particular, some of the examples here. I want to show you our formula sheet. And here we have, when we're working in the metric system, this particular, we have, just give me a sec here. Here's our metric system. So if we're converting smaller to larger, then we move in this direction, we divide. And when we move larger here. Now, the nice thing about this is that we can see right here what portion of a meter a kilometer is and what portion of a meter a hectometer is. So there's 1,000 meters in a kilometer. There's 100 meters in a hectometer, 10 meters in a decameter, 1 meter in a meter, and so on. 100th of a meter in a centimeter, and so on. So our metric system is here, and we simply move up and down as we do our conversions. The imperial system is a little bit more complex. So we have 1 mile is equal to 1,760 feet or yards, or 5,280 feet. 1 yard is equal to 3 feet, or 36 inches, and 1 foot is equal to 12 inches. None of this you have to memorize. This is where you're going to have this formula sheet that for any exam that you'll be on. But it's important to be familiar with it. So when you go to an exam, you know exactly where you're going to look. Now, at this point, we're not working here. We don't need to worry about this or down here. We'll get there, but we're not there yet. So just those two pieces that I talked about. Let's go to example number 1. Here we're being asked, what is the perimeter of this figure? So we've got all of these. Notice all of our measurements are in centimeters, and so there's no unit conversion that needs to be done. And we're simply going to add them up. So let's pull our calculator in here. We have 4.2 plus 4.4 plus 2.6 plus 2 plus 2.1 plus 2.2 plus 2.8. Now, the advantage of a formula of a calculator like this, we can see and make sure that we haven't missed any of our measurements as we go through. And I have another way to look at this. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 sides, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 measurements. Now notice I've got 28 here. So I want to correct that, and that should be 2.8. Press enter, and we come up with 20.3 centimeters. So my perimeter is equal to 4.2 plus 4.4 plus 2.6 plus 2 plus 2.1 plus 2.2 plus 2.8, and that's equal to 20.3 centimeters. Always include your units. And if it's a word problem, you would finish with a sentence. The perimeter is 20.3 centimeters. On to, oh, that's the other thing. Notice that I just put a line through here. That's so that I knew where I had started, so I didn't continue to go around and around, right? So you have a stopping point. On to our second example. The sides of the flower garden are shown below. They're 4 meters long. So this is a circular, we've got a circle on each end and 4 meters long on each side. 4 meters and 4 meters. And the diameter is 2 meters. So the diameter is this line through here. Now, I've set up this drawing so that you can see that we've got 2 semicircles at each end and a rectangle running through it. Now, it's important to remember that that's not necessarily how the shape is going to be seen. You might only see the outside line, and you have to recognize, oh yes, this piece is a semicircle and this piece is a semicircle. So our goal is to find the perimeter of the flower garden. So we need to find this portion of our semicircle and this portion of our semicircle. The nice thing about this is that I can simply find the circumference of this circle, and when I find the circumference, that is the 2 semicircles, the 2 halves, and I only need it once. So let's start by calculating the circumference of the semicircle. Circumference can be calculated 2 ways. Its circumference can be 2 pi r or 2 pi d, and r is the radius and d is our diameter for the circle. A radius goes from the center out, And so the radius in this case would be 1 meter. We know our diameter. We were given it as 2 meters, and so we can simply calculate using 2 meters. So let's calculate our circumference using pi times 2 meters. And again, in this particular instance, we use pi, the approximation of 3.14 times 2, and that gives us approximately 6.28 meters for the circumference. Then remember that we have 4 meters on one length and one side and 4 meters on the other. So our perimeter is going to equal 4 meters plus 4 meters plus our 2 semicircles, which is 6.28 meters, and that gives us 14.28 meters. So the perimeter of the flower garden is 14.28 meters. On to example number 3. Wilhelmina, isn't that a name? Wilhelmina as seamstress. I think there's a typo there. Let's see. Wilhelmina is a seamstress, so let's just correct that typo. So there we go. Oops. Wilhelmina, the seamstress, is sewing bridesmaids' dresses. She orders the fabric from the United States, where fabric is measured in yards. Each dress requires 3 3/4 yards of silk, 1 1/2 yards of lace fabric, and 7 1/4 yards of trim. How much of each type of material does Wilhelmina need to make 5 dresses? So we know that she needs 3 3/4 yards times 5. So the easiest way to multiply our fractions, mixed numbers, is to convert it into an improper fraction. So we take 4 times 3, which gives us 12, and then we add 3, which gives us 15. So we have 15 over 4 times 5. 15 over 4 times 5 gives us 75 over 4. Yeah, that's a little bit better. Then we can convert this back into a mixed number. We take 4 into 7, it goes once, left with 35. 4 goes into 35 8 times, which is 32. 8 times 2, and we subtract that and we get 3. So this is 18 yards as our whole number and 3/4. So she'll need 18 3/4 yards of silk. Now let's look at our lace. That's 1 1/2 times 5. Multiply, we convert this into an improper fraction. 2 times 1 is 2, plus 1 is 3, so we have 3 over 2 times 5. That gives us 15 over 2. And again, we convert that back into an improper fraction. And 2 goes into 15 7 times, with a 1 remainder. So we have 14 1/2 yards of lace. Finally, we're looking for trim, and each dress needs 7¼ yards of trim, and we multiply that by 5. So 7 times 4 gives us 28, plus 1 gives us 29, so we have 29 over 4 times 5. Take and multiply 5 times 29, and that gives us 145 over 4. Again, convert it back into a mixed fraction or a mixed number. 14 goes into 4 3 times, or sorry, 4 goes into 14 3 times. We have 12 with a 24 left over. 4 goes into 24 6 times. Oh, sorry, that's 25. So 25 minus 24 gives us a 1 remainder. And so this is 36¼ yards of trim. So the seamstress needs 18¾ yards of silk, 14½ yards of lace, and 36¼ yards of trim. Example number 4. Just need to adjust this. Give me a second here. Okay. So we can't quite fit it all in one. So Fatima is trying to calculate how much baseboard she'll need for the room shown below. And now we'll scroll up for the room so we can get all of the measurements for the room. So baseboard, it runs along the edge, along the floor. And so what we're looking for is to determine how much baseboard she's going to need for this room. The easiest, well, not the easiest, the way that I would calculate this is to recognize that I have inches and feet, and to separate the inches and the feet out and add them separately. The other thing is to ensure that I get all of the pieces here. So we have this long piece here on the room. We know that this length here has to be the same, so along this side. That means I can take 9 feet 2 inches and add it twice, and I don't have to worry about that piece. I can do the same thing horizontally, like so, go across like this, and across like this. The only difference is that I have this doorway here, and so we will put baseboard across the doorway. And when I do this, now I'm going to take 15 feet 8 inches and 15 feet and 8 inches, and remember that I'm going to have to subtract out 2 feet and 6 inches at the end because of the doorway. Now, we need to account for those cutouts are we've got 24 inches here, which means we have 24 inches here. So 24 inches and 24 inches. And also we have 27 inches there and 27 inches there. And one of the nice things about that is it means I don't have to calculate the length here and add this length and across and so forth. We can sort of make it a bit easier for ourselves. So now let's pull up our calculator, clear that off, and we're just going to deal with the feet. So I have 9, 9, 15, and 15. So 9 plus 9 plus 15 plus 15. And so we have, just in terms of our feet measurements, we have 48 feet. And the feet, that apostrophe indicates feet, and the two apostrophes indicate inches. So now let's add up all of our inches. We have 2 plus 2 plus 8 plus 8 plus 24 plus 24 plus 27 plus 27. And that gives us 122 inches. Remember that we have to subtract out the doorway. So I have to subtract out 2 feet. So that gives me 46 feet. And I have to subtract out those 6 inches. And that brings me to 116 inches. Now, we're not going to leave it like that because we need to know how many feet we have altogether. And so we need to take this 116 inches and convert it into feet. So remember, we know that we have 12 inches in each foot. And we can use a unit conversion process. We can do it 2 ways. We can set it up as a ratio and proportion. So let's do that. That's the most familiar. So we have 1 foot is equal to 12 inches. And how many feet is 116 inches? So we take 116 times 1 foot divided by 12. So 1 foot times 116 inches divided by 12 inches. What I want you to notice in terms of our units, inches cancel and we're left with the unit of feet. So we'll get our calculator out again and we take 116. I'm just going to subtract out 6 from this. We get that 116, and now multiply by 1, we still have 116, and we divide by 12 inches. And so we get 9 feet, and we have this repeating decimal. So I'm just going to write that down. So we have 9 feet and some fraction of inches. And we don't want that as a decimal number. We want that as a number of centimeters or number of inches. And so what we do is we take just the decimal number. So I'm going to divide, or I'm going to subtract out the 9 because I just care about the decimal number. And I multiply that by 12. That's going to tell me in that 0.666666 how many inches that is, because that's what one part of that's the feet, and we want to convert it into inches. So I multiply that by 12 and we come out with 8. And what I'll show you is how that works is that I have 1 foot, 1 foot to 12 inches, and here I have 0.66 repeating, and I want to know how many inches that is. And so I take the 12 multiplied by the 6, and then I would divide it by the 1 foot. So I know now that I have 46 feet, and then I have 9 feet and 8 inches. So I add that all together. 46 feet plus 9 feet gives me 55 feet. So the perimeter, or the baseboard, she needs 55 feet 8 inches of baseboard. I'd like you to do some practicing, build your skills on those pages, and practice your unit, all of the new skills. So I would like to see you do all of those questions. Tomorrow we will look at lesson 3.2. Have a good day.